This MAFEX Hush Batman is the definitive Batman in my collection. He's got everything: a great sculpt, character-specific articulation, a slew of accessories, and a cape for days. There's only one thing he doesn't come with: a diorama. But I think I have just the thing, and it's called WallXD. Let's unbox it and find out. WallXD is the creative brainchild of my friend and fellow South Carolina-based diorama artist Mike, aka High School Creations. This is a 1/12 scale diorama that Mike designed to be an expandable display, which is what XD stands for. Alright, let's see. Everything's pretty well packed in here. Mike loves stickers from High School Creations, so we have a WallXD sticker, which I'll be adding to my workshop sticker wall. And then he also has some instructions with the WallXD logo on it. So that's great, we'll be referencing that. And everything is very nicely bubble wrapped in here. So go ahead and take this apart. All right, here's the base, put that to the side. And of course, the wall. Wow. And the wall has a pop-out wooden piece that I'll show you guys in a second, but this really looks cool. And I haven't seen this. This is the first time I'm actually seeing it in person, and it's definitely very exciting. It snaps right in like this. Mike launched WallXD as a Kickstarter campaign, and it funded in 3 days. I was one of the 278 backers and was eagerly awaiting my WallXD until Mike showed up to 2024 Joe Fest and surprised me with an additional unit. The version that I unboxed is an artist proof, and this was a Kickstarter option for those that wanted to unleash their own creativity on their wall. And that's what I'm gonna do today. Now, this diorama is made to fit in a Detolf display, which is actually where I have my MAFEX DC figures on display. You might think this display looks boring, especially for a diorama artist, so I'll be using my WallXD to fix that problem. I enjoy reading comics, but I really haven't read as many as I would like. But this one is definitely one of my favorites, which is the inspiration for this project. And the funny thing about my story with this book is that I didn't read it until after I got this action figure. I like this thing so much that my wife actually gave me the Hush Batman book as a birthday present. There's definitely some exceptional artwork in this book, which is definitely not a surprise when you consider who worked on this. I was particularly struck by some of the incredible background artwork and setting artwork that you have in this comic, which I think really mix comic style settings with realism in a really interesting kind of way that's always intrigued me. There are a lot of gradients in the background work on this book, which isn't something that I think of when I think back at comic books that came out way before this one. I'm going to use a few paint techniques to try and replicate that effect on my WallXD. And now that you know what the plan is, let's get to work. It starts with some light sanding using 320 grit sandpaper. I sand down all the pieces to ensure the primer and paint will stick to them properly. I use a mask and eyewear, then chop back up the excess to keep the microscopic plastic particles out of my eyes and lungs. Then I prime the entire assembled piece using this Rust-Oleum slate gray, before adding a zenithal highlight to the piece, which is going to help me achieve that gradient effect I mentioned earlier. I gather up the various shades of gray from my spray paint collection and start applying a purposefully uneven paint job using those colors. The uneven coat will provide me some interesting color variation that mimics the way brick walls typically look. Next up, I spray some Rust-Oleum almond on the wood insert piece and hit the sidewalk base with a super light and equally uneven paint job. Once that all dried, I sealed everything with this mini wax polyurethane spray. And here's how everything looks at this point in the paint job. Pretty cool, but still a long way from finished. Now it's time to step things up with some lightweight wall spackle, which admittedly looks way too white when I first applied it. But don't worry, I have a plan to fix that. But before I do, let's weather this wooden insert piece with some Miniwax wood finish that I applied 2 coats of using a paintbrush and then a sponge brush. Now it's time to fix the pristine mortar. I'll be doing that with a black wash, starting with a spritz using this spray bottle. I apply several passes of this, let it sit for a few seconds, and then dab it up with a paper towel. I still want to weather this a bit more, so I turned to a brown wash using a dropper bottle to drip some of this color down the wall using gravity. After this trickles down to my liking, I dab it up with a paper towel, and then I do the same thing on the base. My original plan was to be done at this point, but after inserting this into my Detolf, I felt the display was still missing something. Don't get me wrong, this looks great, but there's a lot of empty space on the shelf. So I'm going to make a base which will be 13 inches wide by 14 inches deep, using XPS foam and some corkboard sheets from Dollar Tree. I test fit my sheets before applying them permanently and then texture the sides of the base. Then I add some foam pieces to mimic concrete supports. My goal is to have the top area represent a streetscape. These peel and stick sheets will be great for that. After those are glued in place, I cut out an area for 2 small pipes, and then I insert them into the foam. I think this extra little detail adds some interest. And now it's time to paint everything using acrylic paints. Black on the top and gray on the sides. But asphalt isn't typically a flat black color, so I missed on some more of that slate gray spray paint. I also wanted this to look old, so I applied some lightweight wall spackle off camera and painted over to mimic patchwork. Then I applied washes to the sides of the base so they didn't look so clean, and some more washes to the street portion of the base. I also lightly sprayed on some brown tones to increase the dirt factor of the entire base. The only thing left to do is see how this looks inside the Detolf. If you like this project and you want to get your own WallXD, you can do that at highschoolcreations.com. Before I go, I want to give a huge thanks to all my patrons and thank Mike at High School Creations for sending over the WallXD Artist Proof. If you liked what you saw today, I hope you'll subscribe to the channel and continue watching Vasco Toys videos like this one.
Vasco Toys. Action figure, dioramas, and props.